All right.
So he had a daytime job with the railroad, I think as a time something. I don't know what that meant. In the station.
In Brighton.
In
So,
Brighton.
Bye. So he'd already, because he had no connection to Brighton as far as his family was concerned.
No, I think somehow there was a Welsh connection there, but I don't.
But he presumably chose to go to Brighton to be near your mother.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they married in well, Mother was born in 1900. I think they were married in 1899 or something like that. As I believe was Grandma Brash.
No.
It was quite funny.
You just said married in 1899. That doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Who was... Oh, I see. Oh, we're the next generation back. Oh, I see. Now I get what you're saying.
Right.
Sorry, I got distracted with the
and
plugging in. Okay.
Mother was sent to a girls' school, not obviously a horribly expensive one. They wouldn't have been able to afford it. But it was a good school. And she often quoted, particularly the domestic science teacher, clear as you go. One muddle makes another. Have you heard her say that?
I've heard her saying that, yeah. And you saying that. I didn't realize that's where it came from.
That's where it came from.
Oh, wow.
From her domestic science teacher. And so her father, who was working in the daytime with the railroad, volunteered at night as an air raid sort of.
Oh, wow.
Because they could see fire in France, and there were dirigibles or something.
Wow, like, they could see fire from
at night,
Brighton?
Yeah, so it's only 20 miles across.
Still, huh?
And,
wow.
and there is, so he used to patrol and tell people, you're showing lights, in your window, dose that.
Oh, that's right, and this is
And
how he got pneumonia.
But he knew Mother was just about to finish the high school of the day in the girls' school. So he took her to Charmaine's in Hove and registered her. I think you had to pay something to go in training as a Charmaine's lady. That's what they called their retail clerks. And it was a 2-year apprenticeship, really.
It's long.
And they were taught a little bit of French and deportment and manners and posture, which they were taught in school too.
Boy, you sure don't do that with
always saying, sit up straight.
Pretend you've eaten a ruler. I thought that was Grandpa Rollo who would say, imagine you've swallowed a ruler.
That would,
or like a yardstick.
A stiff spine. And so when he died, she was already established there. And spent 2 years, and...
Do you think he did that? Did he have walking pneumonia for a while? Do you think he did it when he realized he was not going to be around for much longer, or was she at that age?
I don't. She would have to have left school, and they didn't have... Not many girls went to university.
No. Days. But so she finished.
She finished
high school.
I don't know what
whatever
they called it in those
right.
days, but it was a girls' school. And they seem to have been quite well advanced. So, Mother started in her apprenticeship in Hove after he died. I don't know the dates there. But at least he had got her well established by the time he died. Then 2 years later, Nanny met Frank Smith, who was an American in the American Army, I guess. But
New England, wasn't he?
Maine. I think he was born in Maine, right?
Yeah.
And he persuaded Nanny to marry him and come with him to Kirkland Lake.
Woohoo!
Which must have been a terrible shock. Well, Mother was 18 by this time and was almost finished her apprenticeship. And she said, I do not want to go to Canada. And was engaged or closely attached to the pharmacist's son. And when, what was it? When Nanny took Phyllis with her, of course, because she was 8, I guess, to Canada. Mother was at first sent to live with a relative whom she didn't like. And by great good fortune, one of her friends had a sister who got married, and they were a much better off family than Mother's. And the parents of this friend asked Mother if she would move in and take up a spare bedroom because they wanted their daughter to have, they were very social, to have somebody with her.
That worked out well.
There was a brother too, I think. And I remember she said in the brother's room was something that, what's the shop that sells all the exotic stuff in London?
What kind of exotic?
This
exotic
was
animals?
a portable bathtub.
Oh.
You could, it was made of leather. And it could be folded out.
You could take it out on the
And
safari or
the brother
something.
had it in his bedroom. It was attached to a tap somewhere.
Wow.
And there must have been a drain somewhere. I don't know how it worked, but she had never seen one. I've never seen one like that.
No.
So she had a very happy 5 years living with this
That's
family.
great.
They had a maid, and so she was well looked after,
And so she
was
was working
at
at
in Hove at Charmaine's, which I guess was something like Holt Renfrew.
Right. Yes, a 2-year apprenticeship. My goodness.
Yeah. And she also said they had Ici on parle français in the front door, because they did get some French tourists.
Well, I remember
I
one. She gave me a French textbook or
Did
grammar
you?
book that she'd had.
They did teach. It was almost like going to school. They
that was
wanted their employees to be exemplary
Right.
And-
No, it's very smart.
and keep. And they dealt with a lot of titled people. In fact, I remember Mother saying that, what is the girls' school, the very good one, Churchill's daughters went there. Rhodes, started with R-H-O-D.
Rodine.
Rodine, maybe. And every so often the principal would bring a class of girls in, and they would be taught how to make out a credit card and shop with credit cards and
Credit cards?
Yeah,
Really?
well,
In
they may not have been called credit cards then, but they were taught how to shop. And maybe write. I guess they would write checks, perhaps.
Very likely.
I
Run a
would think.
tab or
But they were young girls, and they would be expected to marry well into wealthy families, and they should know how to shop properly. And so I guess Charmaine's was the school for that. And so that tells you
Yes.
something of the
Caliber.
quality of the shop. Then her, after 5, when she was 22 or 3, for some reason, her fiancé forged his father's name. The father was a pharmacist, too. And the son was not yet.
right, but he was a pharmacy student, right?
He was in training. And I don't know what drug it was. Did one of his friends want some cocaine? Or I have no idea what it was. But anyway, he was caught. And they sentenced him to 2 months or 3 months in jail. And Mother was horrified at that.
And heartbroken, I'm sure.
And said, I've got to get away. I haven't seen my mother for 5 years. I think this is the time to take a trip to Canada. So whoever her boss was at Charmaine's said, I'm keeping your job open because you won't like Canada.
That's funny.
She never came back?
Had
Never did.
I wonder, had the boss ever been to Canada, I wonder?
Went back, and then we
He's
took
still
her.
waiting?
The job's still waiting? Right. Oh, I see. She never came back to claim the job. Right.
So
She
Where was
was writing maybe, I don't
Grandpa?
know how infrequently to Dad, maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
right.
He would write her, and he would have told her that he was being sent to Canada.
Oh,
that was early.
right.
That was 1921, maybe. or so after the war that he was sent. It may have been 1920. But of course, Mother had told him in his letter that her mother had remarried and had gone to Canada.
Right.
And what a shock it must have been to arrive in Kirkland Lake, which I don't think had any paved roads.
Reminds me of Susanna Moody.
Boardwalks, sidewalks. And, but she was amazingly astute. She somehow saved money, and she knew Phyllis would have to go to school later summer. She got her in a convent school.
Oh, really?
Near Kirkland Lake. There would be more Catholic schools up then. There weren't any Protestant ones. And it was a boarding school, and she loved it apparently.
So she went there straight
from Kirkland Lake.
So she was very young then still, 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
Wow, in a boarding school. Wow, yeah, that was very English, I guess.
It was some distance, so they couldn't do a day school. But somehow or other, this was the 1920s, somehow or other, she saved enough money to buy a house in Toronto because she thought she would have to take Phyllis there for further schooling when the boarding school, I don't know how late it went.
And what, did you tell me what her husband was doing in Kirkland Lake?
He was working for the Lakeshore Gold Mine, and it was, I guess they had a lot of miners. He was a chef.
Oh.
And he cooked meals, and he did something
So both
else.
the men she married were chefs.
Pardon?
Right, so both the men she married were good cooks, right? Wasn't
one not professionally?
right.
Work. No, that was a hobby with him, I guess. But
still, I wonder how many men had cooking as a hobby in 1920.
Well, he just liked the curry food they found in the East, and he learned how to do that. And sailors learned to be very handy. They had to mend sails, and although I don't think it was a sailing ship, but they did have to know how to repair things. And he did some building too, tables, chairs, he could do that sort of thing. I guess he was very handy. So Dad was clever enough to look up when, I guess Mother said, my mother has bought a house in Toronto. And of course he went through Toronto all the time. And before Mother this was before Mother had decided to come over, but he was clever enough to look up Nanny and take her out to dinner, or took her to the Royal Alex, or some lot, whatever was on in those days in the early 20s. And then he learned that Mother was coming over, so I'm sure he made
even more
schedule that he would be in Toronto at that time. So they then were dating. I guess he arranged to stay in Toronto for a bit, and so she never went back. They became engaged
fairly quickly, do you think?
Yes. She came over in 23 or 4.
I think it was 23, because I remember oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, probably.
No, it must have been, because we were the same age.
Right.
I think I was the same age when I went to France, which was 25, actually. Could it have been that late? And then Emily got married in 20... Wait a minute. I remember there was a parallel.
Well, anyway, she decided that Canada wasn't too bad, because Dad was taking... They did all... She saw Pavlova, the Russian ballet, at the Winter Gardens, I think. So Dad took her to all...
Right, well, this was Toronto, I guess. It would be a lot better than Kirkland Lake.
Oh, yes. And Nanny had bought... Not only did she buy the house, but in the 30s, I don't know if she'd had another car, but she had a cute little red Nash coupe. And she was driving. She had her license. So she was remarkable for someone born in 1880. A woman.
In England, far away England.
When did your father live in Montreal?
Oh, he lived with a French-Canadian family because he picked up a bit of French there. He used to come in to Mary and me and say, "Taisez-vous donc."
I remember that.
But that was before he obviously came to Toronto. He used it Montreal as a base.
That was his base.
Across the country.
His male base, yes.
Yeah.
And he liked that family very much. And
So his French improved from
from
deux bottles de bonjour.
But he got what he wanted. The
Yes.
salesman gave him beer. So it was amazing.
Well, you know a lot more about your parents than I know about mine.
Yes. Do you even know how? Oh, yes. You do know how they met, right?
Yes.
Yes, through Walter and
Yes.
what was her name?
Alice.
Alice, yes.
Yes. Alice Taylor. And she worked at Hole Proof Hosiery.
Hole, as in a hole, right? Then.
Yeah, hole proof.
Hole proof.
Yeah, it may still be there in London. It
Boy,
was
I'd
there.
like to have a pair of socks that are
Yes.
waterproof.
Well, I don't know. I doubt if they were, but they had the name. Hole Proof Hosiery. And my mother got a job there at 16. As soon as possible. My father obviously quit school at 16 too. So Alice and my mother got to know each other. Now, I don't know how Alice and Walt French met, my father's brother, but they started dating. And somehow my mother, being a friend of Alice's, got introduced to Walt's brother, Harold. Mm-hmm. So they used to double date.
Right. Well, I'm sure there was matchmaking back then, as there is today still.
Yeah, I guess so. And that's how it happened. But I don't know any details about the courtship.
Yeah, I was just about to say, did they have a long courtship? Do you know? Or?
I don't know.
Well, what year were they married?
23.
23. I remember because it's on the box of silverware
What is it?
that I have. It was
Yeah,
their first
yeah,
Christmas
1923.
together. Yeah.
Bought a house right away.
Wow, those were the days.
Weren't they
123 Sterling Street. Cost $3,500. Paid off the mortgage in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years.
Isn't that what? So they were all right in the Depression.
Yes, I
The
remember
house was paid for.
you
Yeah.
contrasting your two families' situations during the Depression.
Now, my father worked on the railway, Canadian Pacific, in what they called the running trades, which meant he went out on the trains. His father had worked on the railway in England. And I don't know how he got to Canada, whether, I don't think there was a railway that had roots in Canada as well as England. He probably just decided to go exploring.
Oh, that's right. He was English. That's right.
Yeah, they were. And I've never been able to find out what part of England
I'd love to know.
my grandparents came from. They never talked about their background. Or my grandfather was dead 3 years before I was born. Grandma French never talked about it that I was aware of.
When you weren't a budding journalist, so you didn't interview her.
No,
Pity.
no, she never talked much about anything.
But she
As I
might
recall.
have had you asked her. You know,
Oh, I'm sure she would have told me where she'd come from,
Right.
but I never thought of asking. But anyway, when my father got to be old enough to leave school at 16 and get a job, he got a job partly, I guess, through his father, or because of his father, who worked at Canadian Pacific, but in the roundhouse, not on the actual locomotives. They started him at a job called a wiper, which was in the roundhouse, and I guess making sure the locomotives were clean or something.
Cleaning the windows of the engine?
Yeah, I suppose, and helping prepare them for
Well,
the
you'd need to have good vision.
helping prepare them for the rails on trains. And I guess you graduated from that job to being a fireman or a brakeman.
Stoking the furnace.
Yeah. So he shoveled coal for many of his early years on the railway.
He must have inhaled a lot of it, the dust, you'd think.
I would think so, yeah. He never seemed to have any lung problems. Early in the I don't know what the date was, but it was still in the 1920s. He was on a train going into Hamilton from London, and they hit something, and the locomotive turned over.
Wow.
But they were going very slowly. And I don't think he was even hurt, but he got shaken up. Naturally, when those
Yeah.
things...
What year was this?
I'm not sure the exact year, but it was in the late 20s.
I wonder what they'd hit going slowly, but it still
Might
had
have been
the
an open
impact
switch or
to
something.
knock it over. Wow, that would be
Yeah.
terrifying.
Because you'd be a baby, a young little boy.
Or maybe not even born. Or
I think I've seen newspaper stories about it, but I certainly do not remember it.
Well,
No, you
only
wouldn't.
Before, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
if it was
yeah.
the late 20s, it
Yeah.
might have been not even
I'm
late 20.
A babe in
Might have
arms,
been.
maybe. But everything was all right until 1939. He was on what they called the spare board. He didn't have a regular run. He never knew when he was going to be called next. No regular hours. The phone would ring at 2 well, I don't think they even used the phone at first.
Someone would come to
A
the
call
door.
boy would come to the door and
Oh,
knock.
really?
Yeah.
It'd have to be a loud knock to wake them up
Well,
if he was asleep
yeah.
upstairs.
You were close to the railroad station, weren't you?
Yeah, the yards was
Yes.
within easy walking distance. Then they started using the telephone. They'd call at 2 in the morning and say his train left at 4.
Oh, wow. So he was
And,
kind of on call, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh.
yeah.
So you remember those phone calls at 2 in the morning? Or the ring?
Vaguely,
And the-
yeah. And
I didn't realize that. That's
yeah. Never any regular hours.
That's hard. So could you-
He could have an idea. He would look at the list and see where his name was on the list, and it would gradually move up. And he could predict pretty well when he'd be called, but never for certain.
So could you go on a week's vacation at some point, I hope? Or
Not easily.
wow.
I guess we did, but I don't remember.
Well, wasn't it mandatory? You had to have some holiday.
Not in those days.
No?
I don't think so. I don't remember that you did. Well, there weren't any unions.
Or weren't there? Oh,
The Brotherhood of Firemen and Enginemen, locomotive enginemen,
yes.
came along soon in the 30s, I guess.
Oh.
And
So
that
they
was-
didn't get a paid vacation. That's terrible.
I wouldn't swear to it, but I don't recall that they did. When he did get a few days off, they usually went to Syracuse to visit Walt and Alice, who had moved there by that time. And I would go with them, of course, and we'd take the LNPS, the electric train, down to St. Thomas,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the New York Central
Oh, I see.
came through and went to Buffalo and Syracuse and Albany and New York. And he was always able to get passes for that.
And
Never bought a ticket, never paid for it.
great.
But I think we made quite a few trips to Syracuse.
And did they have children? Alice?
Two
Yeah,
daughters.
Bernice and Marilyn.
So were they older than you?
Bernice was a couple of years younger. Marilyn was a couple of years younger than her. Marilyn is still in Syracuse. Bernice has been in Florida for many years now.
We didn't hear from her this Christmas, did we?
No, for the first Christmas in some time.
They mean she's got Mac DeGen too, or
Or something more serious.
Did you like them? Do you remember? Did you
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
play together? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
We entertained them here in this house shortly after Bob McBride did the bedroom.
Bedroom, yeah.
Because I can remember we didn't have a new queen bed yet. We had two singles pushed together.
Oh yeah, to make a continental. Big
And those were the days. I guess, no, we must have been just retired.
Probably.
So it was the early 90s. I used to make soups then. I remember it was summer hot, and I'd made a watercress soup, which was nice and green.
Yeah.
Sure, they appreciated it.
Oh. And that was when we had the closed shopping mall, wasn't it? In the
Oh, yeah.
early
Yeah,
90s.
yeah.
Because I remember I needed something, and there used to be a good green grocer over there, next door to which there was a fashion shop, and I bought the trench coat, which is still hanging in the front closet. And Marilyn and Bernice were so amused that I'd gone over for something, parsley or something silly, and came home with that and a new trench coat. which was on a rack. They were having a sale, I guess, and I spotted it and brought it home, much to their amusement.
So,
Then in
you know.
1939, September 39, the war had just
Bad
started.
time. Yeah.
My father was on a freight train shoveling coal from London to Windsor. Chatham was about halfway there. It was a foggy morning. They left London 3 a.m. or
Oh,
something,
boy.
or maybe 4 or 5. But 7 a.m. it was still dark and foggy. And the freight train ahead of them had stopped without warning. I mean, the conductor was supposed to, if it was foggy, he was supposed to put what they called torpedoes on the rails, so that if there was a train following them, they would run over these noisy things and realize that there was a train
They
stopped
should
ahead of them.
stop.
If it wasn't foggy, they'd put out huge candle things.
Do you call them flares?
Flares,
Right.
yeah, thank you. That could be seen, but they didn't want to chance it in the fog. But the conductor put out flares and they couldn't be seen. So my father's train plowed into the rear of the freight train that was stopped ahead of them. The engineer standing right beside him was killed. The brakeman, Robbie Robertson, was very seriously injured. My father was burned from the fire in the boiler and spent quite a bit of time. And they found him sitting on a fence in a field near the wreck.
Dazed.
He
Dazed,
had a concussion or
not
something.
understanding what had happened. And
Where was he burned? I don't remember. His face was not scarred, was it?
I don't remember any scars really, but there were pretty serious burns, body burns. The conductor on the train ahead of them, who was at fault for not doing what he was supposed to do, was a member of the same church, Central Baptist. And they knew each other, which didn't help things.
No.
And I think he was reprimanded and maybe docked a week's pay or something.
Wow.
But he continued to work and continued to be.
So
go to
no
the-
one was actually killed.
Yeah,
Yes,
the engineer
the
standing
engineer.
right
He was.
beside my father. His name, and this led to a lot of confusion. His name was Harry Brash,
Oh.
but it was Bracag.
Oh.
But people heard that the Brash had been killed. They assumed, well, it must be Harold French. It's his wife's name, and they got it mixed up somehow. Or
Wow.
somebody in that family. But it wasn't. But he was killed, yeah.
And the other one, seriously
Yeah, Robbie Robertson was
Injured.
seriously injured.
injured.
Deep.
And what should they have done?
The bullet things.
He should have put out the torpedoes on the
Torpedoes.
rail.
Those.
No, but to the guilty person after the fact.
Well, I think he should have fired him. And
I
don't
agree.
know why they didn't.
Anybody in the church on the train board also that might protect them?
Perhaps, I don't remember that. But anyway, after that, my father didn't get or didn't want the main line runs anymore. He got little branch lines from Woodstock to Port Burwell and Woodstock to Port Huron and that kind of thing.
Well, they'd be less hazardous.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
no danger at all. But then
Well, that's understandable.
when diesels came along, they only had one man in the cab. They didn't need a fireman. So he became the engineer on diesels.
You'd have to go through some training for that, I would think. New
Yeah.
technology and
Yeah, new technology, yeah. But I remember before diesels came along, he was still on steam engines, and occasionally he'd get a passenger run from London to Windsor. Big, powerful engine, pulling a lot of passenger coaches and passengers. And it was very much forbidden for any crew member to bring a family member with them. But I don't know why, I guess he just wanted me to see what job he was doing. So he took me along. He had to sneak me on the engine at London Station by getting on the far side instead of the side that faced the station.
Right.
oh, how old were you? you think? About?
Let's see. How old was I? I was at collegiate.
Oh, okay.
Probably in grade 11, maybe.
So he couldn't tuck you under his
No,
trench coat or something. It would be big by then.
16 or so.
But there was an extra seat behind where the firemen sat,
Ah,
and that's what I got. And looking out the window, which was open, of course, and they could close it. I guess he did close it when they were going fast.
needed goggles, I bet.
Yeah, but there were all kinds of noises, steam and whistles and bells. And we got to Windsor, and there was about a 3-hour rest, and then they turned the locomotive around and it came back to London on another passenger train. So I thought this would make a good subject for an essay for one of my composition classes at school. I guess it turned out all right.
I'm sure.
But the teacher had one complaint. I said somewhere in the story that there were a galaxy of noises in the cab from various sources.
Mixed metaphor or what?
And he pointed out that a galaxy can only refer to stars. So I got deducted, I guess.
Oh dear. A galaxy of points?
Would have been a better word. Cacophony of
Exactly, yes.
Sounds?
Yes. Exactly. But I don't remember my mother ever expressing alarm at this expedition, but if anything had happened on that trip, we both would have been involved. But it didn't. It was very pleasant for me, hearing the whistle blow.
Did she know about it, or
Oh,
was
yeah.
it a-
Aha. Maybe it was more sneaking than
She
just
had to
the...
know about it, yeah.
But when you'd been going down to Windsor, and you would have been not in the engine, of course, but you would have been
right in the locomotive, right next to the firebox.
that one time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
when you said when you used to go down and see your cousins, and
Oh no, we were in the regular.
you were in the
passenger
regular,
car.
yeah, so it wouldn't be
Oh, yeah.
the assault on the senses
No,
back
they-
there.
they
It'd be a
were
lot quieter,
quite,
I guess.
Quite pleasant. Yeah,
So it was just the one time that you
just the one
sat
time.
in with them.
Yeah.
Oh, let's hear it for sneaking people in, because that was
I
memorable.
think I spent more time in the driver's cab in the LNPS, the London and Port Stanley, which were they were like streetcars. And Uncle Bill, Agnes's husband, was the motorman on
Oh, was that his job?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And often when we went to Port Stanley, he'd be the guy driving the thing, and it was all open. You could see him there, and he'd ask me up to stand beside him and see the cars hurrying across the crossings so they wouldn't get hit.
Yeah. There were a lot of level crossings,
Yeah.
which are terrible.
They still are on CP and CN. An accident just the other day near Kingston. A passenger train, 500 people on board, hit a truck. He was
Was there
disabled.
any loss of life?
Minor injury. No loss of life. Well,
Truck
except the
driver must have,
Yeah, the truck driver.
unless he got out, if it had
He was
stalled.
killed.
Oh.
He was trying to beat the rap.
Yeah.
Open.
I used to have to go over a level crossing on my way to Westwood and back.
And that would be a busy one, too. That would be the main line to Montreal, probably.
No, not
Westwood.
not Whitwood. Would be
Oh,
Westwood
oh,
with the
Westwood. Oh,
freight
yeah.
trains, but
Yeah.
they didn't come by very often. But so they're still around, but
They have
Not
good
many.
line system.
yes, yep. No, I never had any problem with them.
I can remember Mary Beth driving to Grand Bend, and I was her passenger in London one time. And we could see, it was very flat, I guess, there.
Oh, it
I
is
can't
up
remember.
there, yeah.
And we could see the train, and she said, "Oh, I can beat that."
Ah,
She was great at speeding up. I don't know what speed it was, but we made it anyway. I
ah,
was gritting my teeth. I think,
yikes!
but-
That could have
Yeah.
been disastrous.
Yeah.
um,
It's easy to misjudge the speed of the train.
yes.
Mark was saying yesterday he couldn't remember how old you and Mum were when your father died, but I remember you were married because he's in your wedding
yes.
picture, but he was gone before Jane was
He
born.
died in, 54 he died.
So
Just before we
three-
went to Harvard.
Same year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
54.
Did he know you'd been selected?
No,
Oh.
he didn't. He knew I'd tried the year before and hadn't made it. And he said, well, you'll get it
I'd
next year.
forgotten that.
Ah.
Yeah, that's when, what's his name from Winnipeg, who became the big CBC star.
Oh,
What was his name? Can't remember.
Doug.
Doug, not Doug LePan, Doug
No.
something. Yeah.
So he'd said you'll get it next year?
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, and he was right, but he never knew.
And what, could you tell it was coming? Like, did you have some warning, or was it fairly sudden?
No, I didn't even know who had applied. I mean, it was open.
No, I meant your father. His death.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, he'd had several strokes, which my mother very carefully concealed from the CPR, because if they knew about that, he'd be immediately barred from running trains.
You'd think she might have wanted him to be barred, I guess, for money. No, but they probably would have found him something
Well, they might have
else.
just laid him off, said goodbye. I don't know.
But did the
And-
doctor know? I wonder if he'd had his... Because
Yeah.
you think the doctor would have...
Weakness of the medical staff,
Because
wasn't it?
he could
They should
have
have
caused
been
a
ones.
They
disaster.
were minor strokes, but he'd
Still.
be found stretched out on the carpet, unconscious.
Oh, did you have that experience?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like maybe it was just the last one, I don't know. But he was in St. Joseph's Hospital for maybe a week, getting progressively worse. So it was not altogether surprising. High blood pressure was his main problem all during
But
his
it
life.
must have been a family weakness.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was.
His father died
his
the
father
same
died at
age.
exactly
Yeah.
the same age.
54, right? Is that what it was? Yeah, that's...
And his brother George was still in his late 20s when
And
he
he
had a
died.
stroke.
Oh, the one down in... Which city was it?
Not Walter.
Oh, Walter. Oh, okay.
No,
Well, where
he-
did this
Walter
George?
was healthier than all of them, wasn't he?
Yeah, he lived. I think he retired eventually. He must
I
have
think
been
he
in
died in his 70s.
70s
late
when he died,
70s,
yeah.
maybe.
Oh, so where was George all this time?
Living on English Street with his mother.
This was Mr. French on English Street?
Yeah, 578 English Street. With a small, boxy kind of house. When they were all raised there, all 9 of them.
Is that the one over by where Lydia lives, sort of? What?
Where?
Over where Lydia is?
This was in London.
Oh, it was in London.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, there were members of extended family, weren't there, in West Toronto? You didn't
Yeah.
used to come down and visit?
You had somebody around Roncesvalles and...
St. John's Road in
That-
West Toronto. Yeah.
Were they relatives?
I was never sure what the relationship was. It wasn't very clear.
Sort of like Aunt Lida, I guess, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't notice that. Oh. And did they... I sense a distance in your voice about George. Did he not get along as well with your father and Walter?
No, he was fine. He was about to get married. He had a lovely girlfriend, what was her name? And he had a convertible.
Oh, well.
And this
Had
was
everything going for him then.
in what would be in the early 30s, I guess. And no, everybody liked George. He was fine. But just suddenly died.
It was very sudden, wasn't it?
Yeah. Cecil, I don't know whether he had high blood pressure or not, but he survived longer than the other brothers, except for Walter.
And I think your source of information should be his son. Was Cecil's wife a school teacher?
Yeah, Edna.
Edna. And they
Yeah.
had one son. What's his name?
Uh,
Lewis. Lewis, wasn't it? No?
what?
Lewis.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes, Lewis.
And he is a high school teacher.
Yeah.
And I think he may know where the Frenches come from.
He lives in London.
You should seek him out.
I've never met him.
Wow. So there were 4 boys at your father's family?
Yeah.
And 5 girls.
5 girls.
Really?
Yeah.
9 children.
Yeah.
Where were they all? We didn't see any of them growing up, did we?
Elsie was the oldest. She lived in Exeter, which is, 40 miles north of London. A rural town in the middle of a great farming area. I don't know what what was her husband's name?
I don't know. I don't think I met him, did I?
Pearl and Ike. He was Ike. And I
For
don't,
Isaac, I guess.
and I think they had 9
Oh
children.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, this is Pearl.
Pearl, yeah.
Oh, she was the oldest.
She was the oldest. Then there was Elsie.
Where she lived in Hamilton?
Yeah, she married George Angles.
A jeweler
A
who
jeweler.
made these rings.
Oh, show me again.
I don't know whether you can see them.
Oh,
Yes.
so in
He
the family.
was crippled. He wore a leg brace. I don't know why. Elsie, then May, who lived in Syracuse.
Did she go to Syracuse before Walter? Or?
No, after.
Oh, but she married an American, did she not?
Joe George.
Was she an American?
Yeah.
Hmm.
He'd been in submarines in the First World War.
Oh my word. And lived to tell the tale?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice guy. I liked him.
I
Joe George.
I remember her
Yeah.
vaguely, but I don't remember him.
So that's Pearl,
So 3
Elsie,
girls.
May, Doris was the youngest. Who are we missing?
Was she the same age as Gwen?
Yeah, maybe even a bit younger.
Did Grandma French not really like them that much, and she lost touch with them once her husband had died? Or 'cause I don't remember. I never saw any of these people, did I?
Well, some of them
Presumably.
weren't in London.
No.
Right, but still, you had cars,
No,
and they
but
must have had.
Syracuse, New York is away.
Oh, I'm not criticizing. I'm
Exeter.
just yeah. Huh.
And she didn't
So
drive,
they
so-
presumably, some of them had children then and
Oh, yeah.
grandchildren,
didn't
so
you
they
say
probably.
You had 20 cousins?
26, I think.
26?
On both sides of the family.
Oh,
4 Hunts, 2 Macaulays, 1 Grace, Bethel.
that was all on your mother's side.
Yeah.
And the 20 were on the other side, I guess.
2 were
2 in Hamilton.
in Hamilton. Lloyd and,
I met Lloyd. I liked him.
yeah, he was a fireman.
Was he?
Yeah. Oh, he died fairly young.
He died young. I didn't know what he did. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're all hunks nowadays, aren't they, the firemen?
Fireman, yeah. May and Joe never had any. Doris, she had Judith, and I think a son. I've never met him, either of them.
Speaking of having children, I remember Mum, you said that Grandma French had told you that she'd hoped Dad would have had a sister or a brother, and I guess your dad was just too busy getting up in the middle of the night going off to work or something.
She had fertility problems.
I remember you saying that.
And-
Did she ever talk to you about that, Dad?
No,
No? Huh.
not that I
And your
recall.
father wanted to adopt that girl we met in Scotland. Did her parents die or something, and she was younger than you? And I think they seriously considered it, but I guess nothing.
Which
came
girl
of
in
it.
Scotland? I don't remember.
We met her in the 50s. She used to write to your mother, and I think they corresponded. And when your mother went over there, they visited. But I can't remember her name.
Was this
But somehow
the
she
child of a friend, maybe,
a
of Isabel's when she was
family.
small?
I don't know the story,
okay.
but apparently her father wanted to adopt her. maybe her mother died. I don't know what the story was.
The only one I remember they were thinking of adopting was Pearl's youngest child,
Oh,
who was quite young at the time. Can't remember her name. But nothing ever came of it. They thought they would get her away from this big family and...
what would her mother have thought? So, would Pearl?
Pearl? I don't remember.
Yeah, imagine that would be very difficult to do.
Well, she wouldn't be far away. Walking distance, actually.
No, but still, it's your chicken child.
Yeah.
Oh. So what month did your father die in?
The Ides of March.
15th of March, yeah.
15th. So a day before it's the 16th, isn't it? They're close enough. Isn't Ides of March the 16th? Is it the 15th? Oh, I thought it was the 16th.
And I didn't know until relatively recently that one can have Ides in many other months than March, but not every month, apparently. Who knows? Because it's something to do with tides.
You were in Toronto, presumably, or did you know? Were you in London?
On Wellesley Street.
Yeah.
But that, like the day he died, did you get a phone call, or you were up in London, or?
Oh, I don't remember.
We went up ahead of time.
Pardon? We went. He was in hospital,
Your mother
and there
asked-
wasn't much hope. So I think we went up then, because I remember seeing him in St. Joseph's Hospital in a bed, and he may have been under a cage, breathing
Your
cage.
mother
or something.
asked me if I would take. I was working with the public health department in Toronto, and I don't know why they gave me time. They wouldn't do that easily now. But your mother asked me if I would take a shift, and her friends, the two nurses who had worked in the Philippines, what was their name?
Oh, yeah, Pearl and.
I was too young.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember Grandma often talked about two friends, Pearl and
Yes.
Pearl and
One of them, as soon as she heard this,
she had a French name, I think.
said to
Yeah, I
me,
think so.
"This is not on. You shouldn't have a family member or family. You shouldn't be in this position." She said, "If you have to, take the night shift, the midnight to 7 or something," which I did one night, I think, or maybe two.
Didn't you get involved with Grandpa Brash's hospitalization too when you were still a student nurse? He was
Wouldn't
in.
have had any